Hey, what up, guys? Coming to you today to discuss the Charlo Brothers pay-per-view preview that just got announced. Bob Arum and Al Heyman and the PBC really brought it with this pay-per-view card. It's taking place September 26th. It's on Showtime pay-per-view. First time the Charlos, they're co-headlining this one. And in both matchups, their biggest of their career, in my opinion. A lot on the line for the two Charlo brothers. I mean, we'll get into that in a minute because I want to talk about the fucking undercard. It's stacked, guys. It's fucking stacked. There's 6 fights total on the card. There's the 2 Charlo fights and then 4 fights that have top 10 or title significance to them. So I'm going to jump right in and I'm just going to go over the matchups themselves. So kicking off the card from what it looks like, at least it's on the undercard, is an IBF Lightweight title elimination bout. So basically, it's former world title challenger Diego Magdaleno is going to be taking on Isaac Cruz, one-loss Isaac Cruz. Magdaleno, former world title challenger, haven't seen him in a significant fight since he got knocked out cold against Teofimo Lopez, but he's trying to get back in the mix. This fight has a lot of significance, even though neither guy, in my opinion, are really super close to the top 10 right now. It's got a lot of significance because, like I said, it's an eliminator, but these guys could next fight for the vacant world title. And the reason I say that is Lee Selby is going to decide the mandatory number 1 contender in his next fight against undefeated George Kambosos. That's taking place in October. If whoever wins that fight, I don't think they're going to get the winner of Lomachenko and Lopez. I think the winner of Lomachenko-Lopez is giving up the title because there's 3 belts on the line. Lomachenko's probably going to hold on to his WBA belt for sure, and most likely his WBO belt, at least for the time being. So the IBF belt, because Lee Selby is going to be the mandatory number 1, I don't see the winner taking on Selby because they would be so heavily favored. And I think Lomachenko, Lopez says he's going up to 140. Lomachenko is probably going to stay at 135 or go back down to 130. And he wants the big names. He's not going to want to fight Lee Selby. So the significance there is the winner of Magdaleno and Isaac Cruz could be fighting for the vacant IBF title against Lee Selby or George Kambosos, whoever wins that fight. So that's why this fight is significant. Magdaleno's not a bad fighter. I haven't seen Isaac Cruz fight, but he's only got 1 loss, so should be a pretty decent fight right there. And that looks like it might be kicking the card off. Now next, the fights just keep getting better. You have undefeated WBA regular junior welterweight champion Mario Barrios, prospect that they're bringing up. He won a secondary world title last year. Hasn't really beaten anybody big yet, but he's trying to get in line for it. He's taking on some little-known guy named Ryan Carl Ryan, 18-2 record, 12 knockouts. Not a bad resume, but he hasn't really fought anybody. Barrios shouldn't have a problem with whatever, Carl or Ryan, whatever his name is. He shouldn't have a problem with them. But, Barrios is being brought along, and they're really at 140 right now. There's really only 3 significant names for him to be matched up against in the PBC that would make it an easy fight. And those guys are former lightweight champion Robert Easter Jr., who is right there, and he's looking for a fight. You got former 2-division world champion Rances Barthelemy. Barthelemy is actually supposed to be fighting for the interim WBA title, which is the regular belt that what's-his-name holds. So they might be on a collision course. I think that would make a lot of sense. He's a former 2-division champ. Barrios is trying to make a name for himself. So that could be next for Barrios if he's victorious on this card and he looks good. Or Adrian Granados, the tough contender that always brings it. He's a PBC guy. So a lot on the table if Barrios keeps winning. So we'll see. But Mario Barrios, exciting young fighter. Check him out. Also on the undercard is, I am drawing a super blank right now after I said that. I know we got Barrios. There is, Brandon Figueroa, the WBA regular super bantamweight champ. That's 122. He's taking on Damian Vasquez. This should be a wash right here. This is pretty much just a stay busy fight ahead of a mandatory title defense against veteran Ronnie Rios. Ronnie Rios is going to be competing for the interim title in the next month or two. And him and Figueroa are on a collision course. Figueroa is trying to establish himself. He's the undefeated, and he's the young guy in the division, ready to take on anybody. Right now, the PBC landing Daniel Roman. We'll talk about him in a minute. They have WBC champion Ray Vargas. They have Ryosuke Iwasa. Brandon Figueroa's got big names at 122 to deal with, that are also PBC guys, easy fights to make. So he's got to get through this one. He should look good in this one. He's coming off that kind of so-so performance against Julio Ceja last year on the Deontay Wilder undercard. So he has a chance to prove that he is legit. I think he's going to destroy Damian Vasquez. He's going to go right through him, but we'll see. But it should be a good matchup right there. To see Figueroa back, one of the undefeated and rising stars in boxing right now for sure. All right, next on the card, we're not even to the Charlos yet. You got former super bantamweight champion, unified super bantamweight champion, Daniel Roman. Roman apparently has signed with the PBC. Did not read nothing about that. He's coming off that loss where he lost his unified titles to Mirajan Akhmadayev back in January on DAZN. That was a really good fight. He lost by split decision. Roman wants to get right back into the mix of things. But it looks like the WBC is lining him up for a shot against the man, Ray Vargas, the undefeated champion. This is a fight I've been wanting to see the last couple years. Roman's got to get through, though, Emmanuel Rodriguez. But this is a super bantamweight eliminator for the WBC. I think it's going to be a final eliminator because Roman is right there at number 2. He's only has one guy ahead of him, Luis Neri, and Vargas might fight him in his comeback fight. But Roman has lined himself up to get right back in line for another world title shot, and I can't wait to see this one. Rodriguez, not a pushover. He's a former bantamweight champion. He hasn't fought. It's going to be close to a 1.5-year layoff for him coming into this fight when he got destroyed against Naoya Inoue, and he lost the title by a second-round knockout. The guy they call the Monster, Inoue, Japanese buzzsaw, he rolled right over Rodriguez. But that was the semifinals of the World Boxing Super Series. Inoue went on to win the whole thing. I mean, Inoue's legit. He's straight up legit. Rodriguez, not a bad fighter, moving up now to 122 to take on the very good boxer puncher Daniel Roman. Good matchup right here. That's probably the third best fight of the night right there. So don't miss out on that one. I think that one's flying under the radar right now because people are in love with Figueroa and Mario Barrios, undefeated up-and-comers, and they're both good, don't get me wrong, but they're fighting nobodies. Both guys are fighting nobodies. Roman's actually fighting a legit former world champion, and he's coming off of a loss, and 122, my rankings, Roman's my number 2 fighter there. Figueroa's later on down. I think he's number 6 or 7. Mario Barrios at 140 isn't even ranked. Diego Magdaleno and Isaac Cruz, neither guy is ranked in my top 10. Daniel Roman is number 2 and very easily could still be number 1. He came in number 1. He lost by a split decision to the guy who's ahead of him. So make sure you're watching Daniel Roman. Now let's get into the Charlo twins, and this card, this co-main event, is gonna be fucking huge, guys. It really is. Both fights for both Charlos, this is their biggest fights of their careers. They have a chance to basically let everybody know that they are the real deal, because that's what everybody the last 4 or 5 years has been saying they're not, that they're overrated, myself included. I do not think the Charlos, I still don't, are as good as everybody makes them out to be. I think they're good fighters. I don't think they're elite fighters. I really don't. But this is their chance to prove me wrong. And how they do that, let's first jump into Jermell Charlo against Jason Rosario. That's the 154-pound unification title fight. 3 of the 4 belts on the line in this one. Rosario holds the IBF and the WBA super titles. Charlo holds the WBC belt. Huge right here. Huge matchup. So Charlo, currently the number 1 fighter at 154. Now, he became that when Julian J. Rock Williams got knocked out against Rosario. Rosario, upset guy, came out of nowhere. Charlo's put up enough of a resume coming off the 11th round TKO in a rematch over Tony Harrison. Coming off that big win last December, Rosario beat J-Rock in January, and things got shifted up. For the first time in Charlo's career, he's heading into a fight as the number one guy at 154. He has not been ranked number one before. Now he is. He's my number one. He's number one across the board for most people right now. This is his chance to prove why and to shut down that talk. Because right now you can make an argument for Rosario. Rosario beat the guy that beat the guy. He beat J-Rock. J-Rock beat Jarrett Hurd, who was the unanimous number one before him. He beat him last year. Rosario knocked J-Rock out. So you can argue, because Rosario holds 2 belts and Charlo only holds 1. You can make an argument that Rosario is number 1 over Charlo. I don't believe so, because I just think Charlo's done more. But this is to determine the best guys. These guys are number 1 and 2 in the division for me. Do I think they're the 2 best guys? No, I don't. I still think Jarrett Hurd's the best guy. But in terms of what they've done, who has the belts, and the significance of the fight, this is the biggest fight of Jermell Charlo's career. It definitely would top his previous biggest win over Tony Harrison in their rematch last year. And it's huge, huge fight right here. Rosario's coming off of his career best win as well, coming out of nowhere and knocking out J-Rock, who was the number 1 in the division after he beat Jarrett Hurd last year. So Rosario, he's riding high, riding a lot of confidence right now. He's got some pop. He has a chance. Charlo coming in the favorite, solid favorite. He's got a chance to prove himself as the top dog. Multiple titles on the line. You just can't beat a matchup like this. You really can't. In terms of what's on the line and the significance of the division, this is it right here. The number 1 fighter at 154 is going to walk out of this fight the winner. So we'll see. 3 belts. Make sure you watch that fight. Don't look at that fight as the undercard. That is a very good matchup. Now the main event, actually this fight I think might be the co-main if you're looking at who ends the show. It might be Jermell ending the show in his unification bout against Rosario, but the best fight of the evening, in my opinion, the most even matchup, is older twin Jermall Charlo, middleweight champion right now, 160, making in the most significant fight of his career against former 2-time world title challenger vsgaryvinchenko. Can't wait to see this fight. This is a matchup I've been wanting to see since Vinchenko first became the WBC's number 1 contender. I looked at it and I said, ooh, this match is exciting. Let me get this match. And the reason why is Vinchenko proved last year against Triple G and the year before against Danny Jacobs that he's a fucking real deal. This dude can fight. He's not great at anything, but he's very good at everything. I'll tell you that right now. And he can do pretty much everything good. He's got good power. He's got good skill. He's got good overall boxing IQ and technique and ability. He's got all that too. He can get inside and fight. He can box a little bit from the outside. He's a shorter fighter here coming in. So he's going to need, obviously, to get inside, but he's got it. He's got the toughness. He can take shots. He went down against Triple G, got up, showed a ton of heart, and almost beat Triple G. A lot of people argue that he did beat Triple G. Danny Jacobs really, in my opinion, outboxed him, but it was a good fight. It was still a good fight. So this dude's been in the ring, fought 2 close fights against 2 of the possibly top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. And, Triple G, in my opinion, still top 5. Yes, do I think Triple G was overlooking Vinchenko? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that doesn't discount what Vinchenko did and almost pulled off the upset. So he is a legit fighter, the most legit fighter Jermall Charlo's ever been in a ring with. Jermall Charlo now coming into this fight. He's coming off of, you could argue, maybe his best win, or at least his overall most impressive win, knocking out Dennis Hogan last December. Dennis Hogan's a little guy, though, who's coming up from 154 after a strong performance against Jaime Munguia. So, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's his best opponent, maybe. I still think his most significant win would be his 2016 knockout of J-Rock Williams. But the thing is Charlo hasn't had that big fight coming into the fight where you were like, damn, what's going to happen in this one? Charlo's fighting. Austin Trout was probably the biggest fight coming in of his career. Possibly the J-Rock fight, but that was really based on shit talking. J-Rock hadn't done anything in 2016 prior to that. And Charlo had only knocked out Cornelius Bundridge, K9, to win the title. So he had something going for him, but that was basically a shit-talking fight that got kind of big. His biggest fight coming in was against Austin Trout, the former world champ. Charlo has a chance to prove all the doubters wrong in this fight, because if he can beat Derevyanchenko, if he can knock him out, man, the significance he'll get. You could argue if he knocks out Derevyanchenko, you can make a strong argument, and I'll probably do it. You put him over number 2 over Triple G. Canelo, still number 1 in the division. You don't put him over Canelo, but Canelo might not be at 160 very much longer. His next fight's at 168. Jamal Charlo with a win over Derevyanchenko. Actually, if Derevyanchenko beats Charlo, you could argue the winner of this fight is the number 1 fighter at middleweight, because they would be legit middleweight. So Charlo, this is the fight of his career right here, and he needs to come out. He needs to come out strong. He needs to prove that he is the man, and I think he has a very good chance of doing that in this fight. Even a close win over Derevyanchenko would mean a lot, because it means he worked for it and he got the win. So cannot wait to see this. This is my number 3 middleweight, number 4 middleweight in the world fighting each other. The WBC title on the line. People might say, well, this is 3 and 4. The other Charlo brothers 1 and 2. Yeah, but 3 and 4 at 160 middleweight, that's behind Canelo at number 1, the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Triple G, the dude that's been running roughshod over middleweight for 10 years now. Those two guys are just iconic top 5 pound for pound guys. And Charlo and Derevyanchenko are right after them. So huge fight right here. This Charlo pay-per-view is very good. The 2 Charlo brothers fighting. Don't miss out. September 26th, Showtime pay-per-view. Again, Daniel Roman, Emmanuel Rodriguez on the undercard, eliminator right there. You got 2 title fights. Brandon Figueroa defending his super bantamweight title at 122 against Damian Vasquez. Mario Barrios taking on Carl Ryan, whatever his name is. 140-pound title on the line. And then a lightweight eliminator between Diego Magdaleno and Isaac Cruz. 6-fight card right here, guys. Pay the fucking money. Watch this fight. Gonna be very good. And if you don't want to watch it and pay the money at your own house, things start to clear up with the corona, come up to my house. I have a big house now, a big spread, and that's probably going to be my first fight night of the year right there. I can't wait, of the new house. So check it out, guys. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. That's the Jamel Charlo, the Charlo brothers pay-per-view preview. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.